What is up, guys, and welcome to my spoiler review of episode 2 of The Last of Us, which you should have just watched, titled Infected. And this is an episode that's actually directed by Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of both of the games and is co-showrunner. So his first time directing an actual movie, TV show, feature. How did he do? Pretty fucking awesome. So as always, guys, you should have gotten the hint from the title, from the thumbnail. This is going to be a spoiler-filled review. If you have not watched the episode, please do yourself a favor, treat yourself, go watch it on HBO Max right now. And this episode starts off with, similar to the first episode, another kind of real-world exploration of the pre-pandemic, of how the world would have responded, and something that's not really portrayed in the video games, to where they show off in a foreign country. Can't remember what it was. Maybe it was Taiwan or something like that. And this woman who is a government official, scientist, they bring her in to look at this dead body. And they're warning her throughout, like, hey, we don't know what the hell this is. We need you to check this thing out. And she's been studying the cordyceps. She's been studying this fungus. And just like the guy in the first episode has likely been aware of the possibility that these things might evolve at some point, goes to look at this dead body and opens up the mouth, and you see the little cordyceps tendrils coming out, which is, again, it's a visual element that I love that they've brought into this show. It's such a creepy little difference between what makes these zombies so unique versus every other portrayal of zombies that we've ever gotten. And she's petrified, and gets pulled back, and you get that really dark, grim conversation between her and this other government official, to where he's like, what do we do? She says, nothing. There's nothing we can do. There's no cure. There's no way to stop it. There's no way to slow it. Well, what do we do? Fucking bomb everything, including me and us right now. And just, can you imagine having something that is just so grim and so terrifying that you're like, kill me? Because it might not even work. It might not even stop the spread, but this is all we can do, is just burn everything. And that was just a really creepy way to, again, set the tone of this universe. We've already seen what the cordyceps virus has done, and yet going back to before it happened just adds another layer of hopelessness that I thought was a really cool little addition to this episode. And then very quickly you get back into present time, and as the last episode ended, you had the revelation that Ellie has been bit and claims to be immune, and that is why Marlene wants her taken across to the Firefly base at the Capitol building. And so you have Joel and you have Tess. You have Tess that's curious, that's intrigued about this situation, and then you have Joel that is just completely hardened to it, doesn't want to believe it, doesn't want to even entertain it, and wants nothing to do with the rest of the job. And I really loved this interaction between the three characters for a number of reasons, because it really shows how hopeless everything is for Joel, with, of course, the death of his daughter in the first episode, and just to the point where he's just this hardened person that just survives. That's just his purpose at this point, is to survive for various reasons. And taking an infected girl, or somebody that might be infected, is something that is absolutely going to affect his ability to survive. And so where Tess has that little bit of hope still, Tess has that little bit of curiosity and wonder of, could this be real? Joel wants nothing to do with it. And so their back and forth was really interesting. And I loved the moment with Ellie. And this is one of the moments that I absolutely just fell in love with what Bella was doing with this role. And I was like, that is Ellie. To where he finally gets convinced by Tess, like, fine, we'll take her. And he goes, man, if she even twitches, I swear. And then Bella's like,
if she so much as twitches, don't.
Okay.
That is 100%. 100% Ellie's smart-ass humor. So I absolutely loved the opening to this episode. And even when she's eating a sandwich that's got chicken in it, and they're like, what? They're eating like bullshit jerky. Like, is that chicken? And she's like, yeah. Just things like that. Really, it starts off their little trio of relationship and of character dynamics with each other in a way that, to me, it was just right out of the video game. Just perfect representation of those characters and how they interact with each other. And then as the episode progresses, you get these characters that are now continuing on to the Capitol building. And this is something that, again, is a little bit of a change from the video game that the video game fans are going to notice, and those that are watching the show are never going to realize this was changed, is that they go through this hotel setting. And this is a setting that you go through in the video game much later in the game. And, at least a chapter or two past this point. And so it was interesting to bring that setting in, which is a familiar setting for us video game fans, but stick it in there in a way where it's not like we're missing the original version of that. It's not like anybody's going to outcry like, wait a minute, we're not supposed to be at the hotel yet. It was a cool way to bring that setting in while also giving just more progression of those three characters heading towards the Capitol building. So a little subtle change, but I like the way that they did it. Now, something that we have to discuss, which for whatever reason has been one of the most hotly debated things since before the first episode came out, when little details were let loose in interviews that the show was not going to be using spores. It was not going to be portraying the spores side of this virus that is a pretty heavy element in the video games. And for those that are only watching the show, essentially spores are like this airborne section of the virus, to where you'll have a little building or specific rooms that are so filled with the fungal infection that it's actually airborne. It's like this nasty mist, and every time they get ready to go into an area like that, they have to put on their gas masks because breathing it will make you infected. And obviously Ellie is the only person known to man that does not have to wear a gas mask. And so it's a really cool element in the video game. It does add a little bit of a visual sheen to it that makes it a little bit harder to see, adds a little bit more tension. There's a little bit more of a sneaking element in those parts. And of course, especially in Last of Us Part 2, the fact that Ellie can breathe it is a significant moment when it happens. But what did they decide to replace it with in this show? Well, they replaced it with something called Tendrils, that to me is just as awesome for very different ways. And so essentially the way that the virus works in the show is that you have this hive mind element, to where, at least in the nearby area, everything that is a part of this fungal infection, this cordyceps infection, it all has this hive mind, to where if you step on a tendril that's still active, or if you bump into something that's still active, it sends out little messages to all the infected in the area, and then you have a horde on your ass in 5 seconds. And I thought that was an awesome addition. I'm sure that's something that Neil Druckmann probably had in his back pocket that maybe he didn't get to put in the games yet, or was maybe going to introduce in Part 3. And the fact that they brought it into this show is just a really cool extra element of tension for me, that I'm totally fine with that little lateral move. I'm totally fine with them not wanting to do scenes with gas masks and not wanting to visually represent the spores, and using this instead, because this is pretty fucking creepy. I mean, you got to think about how difficult that must be to navigate some of these areas, and how tense it must make you feel that if I step on any little flower that might still be active, all of a sudden I've got clickers and shit on my ass. That's pretty awesome. And I do understand the logic that they were talking about. Craig Mazin, the showrunner, was talking about how the spores never really made a whole lot of sense to him, because it just doesn't make sense how you would only have specific areas with spores, and if spores were a real thing, the whole world would be infected pretty quick. And it makes sense to me. I think that it works well in the video game setting. I never really asked questions about it, never really had any logic issues with it, but when you explain it that way, I get it. And so the fact that they went out of their way to create something to replace it with, and create something to cause that same kind of tension that those spores sequences creates, I'm cool with that. And there's some people I think might even like the tendrils more than they like the spores. So aside from the cool visual of the gas masks that's pretty integral to the Last of Us visuals in the games, that's about the only thing that's missing to me that I think could have looked cool in the show. But I'm cool with the tendrils. I liked it. And of course you get the big standout sequence of this episode, which there's a lot of awesome shit coming down the pipe, guys. But this is still one of the standout sequences of the entire season for me personally. And to me, it's the moment where Neil Druckmann really puts his stamp into this episode, because he knows how important nailing this specific sequence is for the series to recreate the experience of the video game. And that is the clicker sequence, to where they get into this museum and all of a sudden you start to hear those clicks. Even before that, whenever they see the guy that's just torn all to shit, and Bella Ramsey as Ellie's like, what is this? That's not what the infected do. And the look on Tess's face, she's like, holy shit, could they be here? And if you haven't played the video games, I imagine that was a really effective setup. And as a video game fan, it's like, oh, the clickers are coming. So the way that they slowly and subtly set it up for one was really effective. But when they get into that room and you hear those clicks and you hear that noise, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And the way that they not only brought this sequence to life that totally captures what it's like to sneak past clickers in the video game, but also just the practical effects on the clicker was spot on. I mean, 100% spot on. And this was just such an intense sequence that they're sitting there. First time Ellie's even interacted with them. Of course, Joel and Tess have been around for a little while, so as soon as they come in, like all those little moments where they, again, very efficiently but subtly get you up to speed on what the clickers are, how the clickers work, and they're walking around, and that was an insane sequence to me, especially after Bella just breathes a little too loud and rah, and they're running around, and again, that is perfectly represented from the video games. If you fuck up and you get too close to a clicker, or you move a little bit too fast, or you bust into something and all of a sudden rah, and now everybody in that near area is now on your ass. They captured both sections of what it's like to interact with a clicker, in the sneaking and in the, oh shit, I just fucked up, now I gotta kill these things. I thought that was absolutely perfectly done. And the way too that, especially by the end of the episode, you find out that Tess got bit. The same way in the video game, you never really see it happen. You just see everything so quick, everything is cut in a way to where it's chaotic. And so you don't expect to find out that one of them has been bit. And obviously Ellie does, and there's the joke. She's like, well, it had to happen to one of us. And that was a good little moment there. Again, that's perfectly Ellie type of line to give. Leading all the way up to the final reveal where you get to the Capitol building and the Fireflies have all been wiped out. And this is where you really see the two worldviews of Joel and Tess differ completely. Where it was much smaller scale at the beginning of the episode, where Tess was just kind of curious and entertaining the story of Ellie, where Joel wanted nothing to do with it. Now you get to the Capitol building, and the job that they went for is now gone to shit. There's nowhere else to take her. There's no one to call. There's nowhere to go. And it's revealed that Tess has been bit. And so she knows, like, this is it for me. This is the last stop. I don't have much longer. And her conversation with Joel was almost more effective in the show than it was in the video game. I don't know, maybe it's just the emotion of Anna Torv, but it was done really well as far as the performances, where she just tells him, like, you have to do this. Like, if you feel any obligation to me, like, I know I'm always the one that kind of gives hints that she always kind of loved him, where he was always kind of this wall and didn't really have the ability to love so much. If you have any obligation to me, you're going to do this for me. You're going to take her. You're the only one that can do it. We've done so much shit in our lives that's nasty, that's gross, that's evil. We have to make up for it by doing this. This is it. I was bit 15 minutes ago. I'm already, like, looking horrible. Chick was bit 3 weeks ago, and it looks like nothing. Like, this is real. So that whole little segment there, that whole dialogue exchange between those characters, I thought was done so well. And the performance of Pedro in the moment where he decides to listen to her, I thought was really good too. Again, subtle. Where he's listening to her, and you can tell he's a little shocked, he's a little heartbroken, because he has to feel something towards Tess, and now that's over with. That's the only person that he has had, like, a tether of a relationship with in this new world. And she's telling him to go. Take her and get the fuck out. Take her, I'm done. And he just looks at her, and then just quickly grabs her and runs. And Ellie doesn't want to leave. We're not leaving her. And just so that entire segment, I swear, as many times as I played the video game and it's so effective there, I think it was more effective in the show. So I loved that. And also the sequence where, which we didn't get to see in the video game, where Tess sacrifices herself. So in the video game, you just move. You just go through the next door and you're running away. And when you're running away, you can hear the background noise of it's soldiers that are coming. It's not clickers. It's not the infected. And so you just hear Tess get gunned down.
Stairs. How do we get up from there?
And eventually you can look and see, like, from the top floor and look at her dead body. But in the show, the way that they did it, where the infected are coming because of the tendrils thing, again, awesome. and she's trying to put gasoline everywhere to blow up this horde to not only kill more infected and make her sacrifice worthwhile, but also to give Joel and Ellie some run time to be able to get away without having to run away from a horde. And it was a pretty tense sequence where they're coming in and nobody's seen her, and all of a sudden one of them's like, and just goes over to her and tries to almost make out with her to a certain degree, where you see the little tendrils going into her mouth and she's trying to just get the lighter to go. That was some pretty gnarly shit. And again, just a little visual representation of how that cordyceps virus works differently than normal zombie stuff, normal bites and normal transference of the infection. And so everything about this episode I thought was fucking great. Again, one of the better episodes of the season as far as recreating sequences and experiences directly from the video game, as far as gameplay sequences. And I think that Neil Druckmann being a director of this episode is not an accident. I think that they knew that he was the one that was going to be able to bring those to life the best. And so I really did love this. I think that it was, as far as getting it onto the track of it now being specifically Joel and Ellie, that it was a really efficient way to get the first couple chapters of the game out in the first episode and the second episode. And that clicker sequence is just an absolute standout. So what did you guys think of this episode? Please let me know down in the comment section below. And what segment of the game, what story, or what gameplay sequence are you most anxious to see represented in the future episodes? Let me know down below. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this, please click over here for all of my reviews of The Last of Us show thus far. And I'm also going to put my season review up here, spoiler-free, for you to check out. If you enjoyed this, like and share and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of my coverage of the show. And we got another live stream tomorrow with my buddy Uncle Sean. And as always, please remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.